Once again, it's the Spincast Cycling Show. I'm your host, Brian Kellison, Brian White, Lee Zavries, Casey Shum. That music is so blaring in my ears. Turn it down for me. Thank you, Lee. I appreciate it. All right, we were just talking about this off air. Let's talk about it right now. I'm having a difficult time with life, balancing life and work and all the other things that happen. And so I'm having motivational issues of like, I've let fitness dip. I could probably go out and race and get beat really easily, but I can go out and mix it up and have fun in a casual stuff. I just need to get the time to do it. And I'm older. So I had a birthday, 2 weeks ago? Can't remember how old I am now. I'm 48. So the aging athlete, how do we cope with life? How do we balance with that stuff? We're going to do a bunch of topics because we have to catch up on a bunch of stuff, but we were just talking about this, and I think this is good to have on the show now. Mine is, I want to eat food and I want to ride when I want to ride, and I don't want to have to focus on, I'm going to eat. And every time I'm eating now, I'm like, I'm going up. Like, I'm just counting the smart scale, the Garmin smart scale reading output, which is unhealthy, which is why I'm just eating whatever I want to eat. And it's the holidays. So it's like, I've worked all. How do we balance this? Like, I'm having a tough time with the motivation to even get back on the bike. Plus, I don't have the time to get on the bike. So when I get on the bike, do I do a workout or do I just noodle around like I want to do?
Yeah. I'm kind of similar right now between family stuff and work because I haven't been here in a month. Part of that's family, part of that's work. And we are 4 guys short, plus just a regular scheduled on vacation. So I've been fortunate, but on my last paycheck, I had like 48 hours of overtime. And then there was like 2 other call-ins I had. So like, it's been nuts. I've rode maybe 4 hours a week. And this week it may have caught up to me between the...
Hold on a sec. I'm laughing because you actually look at the hours you've worked. Like, you have to clock in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's you clock in hourly.
I am an hourly employee, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't done that for years. Okay.
Yeah, well, so, yeah, I've been trying to get other jobs, and I'm eventually to the point now to where it's like the kid that keeps reaching for the hot stove and they keep saying no. I finally learned my lesson. So obviously, I'm just going to.
But you were saying you have 48 hours of overtime or 40 hours a week and then 8 hours of overtime?
Well, yeah. So it was basically 128 hours in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So.
And you're winning Sunday race clubs?
And well
you're
not
probably
for long. Not for long if you keep that up.
Yeah, right.
You're probably like super well rested. Like, that's really.
So the 2 weeks, well, it's been 3 Sunday race clubs ago now, 3 races ago. I was scared to death because this course had killed me. It was Wollongong, and I had won it before. And we had some new people come in, like the category 4, they've had some people come from category 3 down and some new people join. So it's gotten really challenging.
Okay. So how, just real quick, how frequently do people go up and down? Is it weekly?
Every
you're
week, every week
that's
there's
just
some movement.
Whoosh, just saying, hey, you need to go down? Or how does that work?
That's a great question. No one truly knows. We can speculate.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because
all right, just hit the sounder, even though we don't have a sounder. When we get a sounder, reckless speculation. Here we go. How come we don't know? How come we don't know if, like, I'm a 3? Like, if you're a 3 this week, how come you're the 4 the next week, and then I'm back at the 3s next week? It's like that's kind of weird.
My pure just guess, because I was in Cat 3, and then I came back to Cat 4. Obviously, there's some sort of calculation of your power. My VO2 is not great compared to my FTP. So I think that's part of the reason why I went from Cat 3 down, because like literally 5.3 to 5.4 watts is like my absolute high end VO2. But my steady effort like that, I can do much higher. So I think it takes into that. And according to Matt Smithson, he said it on his podcast a time or two. If you're racing up and getting beat, ride hard to the finish. So when I was in Cat 3, I finished in the 20s, but like I did the same exact, I raced the race and rode to the finish. And I have no idea if that's why I got moved down, because now there's people that were actually stronger than me that have come down, and some new people that are out on the same or higher level than me.
All right. Casey, what do you think? Because I have some thoughts.
Yeah, well, I guess my question would be, and this may be reckless speculation from all of us, is we don't know what is causing people to move up or down or what the thresholds are, but do you feel like it's based on what they perceive your ability to be, or your results, or a combination? Like,
well, I don't think it's results, because for the past 4-5 weeks, I've placed in the top 5. So it would make sense if it was, but the people that I'm racing around, they're all within the same power level. Like there's not really a big gap.
But let me, I'm with Casey on this, and I understand what you're saying, Brian. It's from what I'm thinking is there's more people coming in, one. So maybe people are fluctuating, but 2, you're doing an effort on a certain course. Let's say it's a flat course, and you're not going to do like a flat. You're going to do like a 20-minute to a 45-minute flat effort. Yeah. Versus these little spikes of the Wollongong, which is like a 4 or 5-minute climb or whatever it is, and then it's adjusting that you're outputting stuff, and so they're adjusting you back down because so it's one, what you can actually physically do, your results, and then the course. Does that seem like
it is? There's people that move, and some of it is course based, some of it is power based, and I don't know, because there's some guys that have come down that have been in Cat 3 for a little while, but the results haven't been there. So there's several factors. Maybe their fitness is down or whatnot. And it's good. It's good because we don't know, so we can't target these things. Yeah. So I won this race that's playing right here. I won.
Brag a little.
Well, and I will say it was set up exactly. I'm not going to say for me, because obviously, there's 60 people in the start of this race, but it's set up to my strength because Columbia, the gradients are steady, and there was no big attacks. I did a couple of attacks to see the group, and then I was able to just get into gear and go. The course we did last week was California, and it was not my strong suit at all, because I've never been in a real life road. Now they may exist, but for me, it's like 7, 3, 2, 4, 1, 12, 10. I mean, it is every less than 50 meters, the gradient's changing. And that's not my strong suit. And so you feel like you
are being adjusted properly. Do you have any indication from other people that are being adjusted properly?
Some of this is why I think why category 4 now is getting to be such high, is this is just my guess. There's a small.
And hold on a second, for people that are audio only audience, right? Or that don't know MyWhoosh, 1 is the top, 2 is it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is the lower tier. Is there a 5? I can't remember if there's a 5.
That's something that we are just chatting amongst us in our team, that there's possibility of category 5
when more people. Of the year. Yeah. Okay. So you're on the lower tier, but you're pushing and you're successfully doing stuff, and you are. You are in a high racing score on another platform as we get into the drinking game. Yes. Even though I don't drink.
We got annulment in racing score, so chalk them up. We got them both.
Okay, got it. The racing score in another thing. So your high racing score, because you race quite a bit. You and Casey are very good racers and have a high racing score, but it's not category anymore. So do you feel like you move more in Whoosh or in Zwift?
Well, I would say for me, the racing score, I've been in the top group for a while. pretty much since the beginning of it. Like once it like became official, I've been in the top group, and in Cat 4, I've been at the top section of it, the top 10, basically since September, once I fully got back to fitness. And it's really tough racing. Like it's not, it's evolved a lot from when I started in July.
Telling me I can't sprint for a win in Sunday Race Club with a 2.9 watt per kilogram average.
You might probably not.
That sounds like a challenge.
Well, it's probably a challenge. Here's the thing. I think the big takeaway though is MyWhoosh has, you have to do a height video, you have to do a weight video, you have to then race really hard for whatever. You don't have to race hard. Like, sorry, that you don't have to. You can do all the jump through all the hoops and show up and just spin and do your recovery ride. But why would you jump through all those hoops and not race?
Yeah.
So the quality of racer is higher and more concentrated in the MyWhoosh stuff. And that's why Racing Score, because this goes back to the casual versus competitive, which we've been talking about for a year.
It connects dots that I didn't, that you just connected the dots for me. Cause this has been my other platform frustration is people aren't at a race to race. When Sunday Race Club, you jumped through the hoops, people are there to race. Cause I was just going to comment, Sunday Race Club's harder because everybody's there for the prize, right?
And the prize is monetary.
Prize, but that means there's real race dynamics and people are willing to go all in and actually hurt other people, throw punches, risk the race, right? Because it's kind of a checkers or wreckers mentality, right? I'm not here for a workout. I'm here to bring home some cash.
Yeah.
Where on Zwift, the guy will pull at the front for 4.5 until 50 meters to go, and you blow his doors off in a sprint, and he doesn't care, right? Like, and that ruins the race because you can't play dynamic because you basically have a motor pacer.
And then this last race was kind of interesting too because in the top 6, we had like a little breakaway. I had 3 teammates, me and 2 other teammates. So it's like,
so you could work together too, like you share the load a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm actually making a YouTube video about it because I'm used to.
Are you teasing your other ventures on the show?
But
shameless plug.
It's a good example of the difference between MyWhoosh and Zwift, the dynamics, because we got up to the wheels.
Wait, hold on. Dynamics, as in their physics dynamics,
yes,
or the dynamics of the community, or the community, the competitors in the race dynamics.
The physics.
Physics. Got it. Okay.
Because we got up to the wheel, we bridged. Like me and the other guy weren't doing any work to catch the teammate. We were letting the other guys do it. So once they did it, we got there. We were literally like 10 meters away, but we didn't connect the draft. And within, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, it seemed like they had 15 seconds gap. It was insane, the difference. So then it's like, okay, I'm going to let my teammate see what he can do. And I shifted my focus to the King of the Mountain jersey. And then my focus on the final climb was to get in the money, drop a guy.
So King of the Mountain is money?
No, it's just a jersey.
And why did you focus on that?
Because it was consolation prize. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't in the, it was just I guess that pride thing of, basically it.
Oh,
that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, there was nothing to it outside of, okay, I can't win the race, so I want to get the King of the Mountains jersey. That was basically it.
Okay.
So yeah, there's nothing to it except for you get the jersey in game, like in your locker, it shows you can't wear it, but you just shows you want it.
That
so
sounds right up your alley. That's why I was asking, like, why are you wasting energy on a thing that doesn't matter? Unless it was like, oh, it's a $50 little prize inside of a race, which could potentially be it.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's like, hey, doesn't the payments go from 1 to 5, right? In MyWhoosh?
Yes.
Payment 1 to 5, but if you get little, like, hey, it's like a $50 preem that you can get for like winning the sprint or winning, that would be kind of cool.
It would
go pretty deep for a $50 column.
Oh yeah, and that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, okay, do it for $50. Yeah, I could get that. But if you're just like, I'm going deep for, obviously you guys are in the breakaway, whatever. But like,
the other part was to kind of break break that one other person off. So we could be in the top five.
Okay, yeah.
So that was the other aspect too. Like if I can get the King of the Mountains jersey, I'm pushing the pace.
Okay.
Hopefully one of the guys.
I have a question about when you were, because for the people that are not watching the video behind Brian, the one thing that I was talking about on my stream, I streamed, I think, during the week. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've been on the bike, but there's like the 5 main games, 4 of them have a draft indicator, right? I think we talked to Nathan about this maybe a little bit, but like, did you use the little draft indicator? Were you just watching when you were doing your breakaway and going through and doing that stuff? Do you actually pay attention to the green numbers? Because your number right now is green because you're in the draft. But when you're doing rotations, does it help you?
So I will say this, and you guys talk about the draft and all this. I could care less if it's a green number, shows me draft, no draft, whatever. I literally, when I'm in the race like this, I just know, like, I don't need something to say, hey, I'm in the draft, because I know if I'm behind a guy, or it's just the feel of it. Yeah, but I am not concerned about that aspect. You know what I mean? I get
that because you're in the moment. I get that. But I'm saying, like, we're 2 things. One, we're using it as a tool, because sometimes I use it. I used to use it as a tool in RGT, and I used to use it as in Training Peaks now, but whatever, in Velo. And Bike Terra has it. Ruvi, I believe, has it. But do you use it? Do you just trust that you're in the draft?
Yeah. I purely
because you trust it in Zwift because we don't get to see it?
I guess it's because I have no physical, like, I'm behind the guy, but how much, like, per se actual power am I saving? Like, because
no, you still got to go hard. I understand that, but like, there's also a point where, like, the trainer resistance should lessen.
Yeah.
So that you're like, oh, I can recover here for 30 seconds to then go to the front to recover. I'm just curious if you were glancing at it. I know that you're just digging in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So basically, maybe I'm one of the few rare people, but literally I could care less about the on-screen data. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm focused on the wheels around me. I may look at stuff, like, you know, the riders nearby to see what the watts per kilogram is to try to stay ahead. Or like, if, like, in the ladder races, I noticed Coalition guys were setting up an attack on Friday because 2 guys in front of me jutted to the side and the guy from the back went orange. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, you use those tools, but like when I'm doing any kind of move or effort or just racing, I'm very, very rarely looking at data. So like the draft,
I'm not saying aspect, data. I'm saying just the green number.
Well, that's what I mean. Like that part. Like
instead of white number,
else.
Green number. Yeah. But like, okay, got it. You're just a big dumb animal. I got it.
Yeah.
And I don't use the draft. I mean, I use the sauce overlay, right, for draft, and I use that. I provide that to my stream more for a stream content kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the only time I really use a draft indicator, or have found myself using a draft indicator in any game, is when something doesn't feel right to me. Then I start looking at the draft gauge to say, it says I'm in the draft, but I'm not feeling it. I mean, I think some of you guys probably watched the race where I was complaining the whole race in MyWhoosh, and I'm like, it's broken. My number's not green. And after the race was done, I found out it was a TT and there was no draft enabled in the entire race. Two of us broke away and we ended up basically riding side by side. But other than basically calibrating my brain, right? Like, it didn't feel like a draft, but it's telling me it's a draft, and then I'm aggravated. Other than that, I don't really look at it.
Yeah, and that guy that you're with, he's on my team. He's that Torsten Holes. So yeah,
he's stronger than me.
He's a very strong rider. Yeah, very strong.
Well, the reason why I brought it up was to see if you use it in the game. Obviously, you just do it. I get that. Yeah, most of the time I'm just watching the avatars. That's what I want to do. I want it to be a simulation. I don't want to have to know if I'm in the draft or not, but we don't really feel it. And so this also brings up a point where when I did a race with Fez, Mark Ferris, friend of the show, Fez Wheel. And there was 6 or 7 people. It was a later race for me, early race for him. He's in Australia. And the video shows that when a rider moves from the pack. So this auto steering or whatever they're doing to try to help alleviate the steering of abled people and the steering non-abled people in racing and Zwift. If you don't use steering, you follow the wheel of someone who comes out of the main lane, the non-steering lane, regardless of it's the first person. I actually moved out of the draft on the climb. We were going up the Zwift KOM on the second lap, or the first lap, whatever it was. I moved out of the draft, which I didn't know I was in the draft or not in the draft because there's no draft indicator, but it seemed like I was out of the draft from the non-steerers. Does this make sense now, everybody? 2 people steered out. Fez went to the left. The other rider had steering of the 3 of us out of like 10. The other went to the right. I moved a little bit to the left, and then I moved to the right. I did not steer. It auto steered me out of the draft. The other people that don't have steering stayed clumped together.
So
I've been seeing some weird.
Yep.
I wouldn't say weird. It just the auto steering with the plays enabled seems to be changing with almost every update. Like I did a race a week or so ago where 2 riders were riding away from me on a climb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they got to be 3, 4, 5 seconds up the road from me, and they were still swinging from edge of road to edge of road, and I'm completely by myself. My guy is still swinging with him.
Yeah, like that's what I did.
I'm 50 meters, 60 meters behind him.
You're not steering.
And I'm not touching him, and I mean, I'm going curb to curb, right? Yeah.
I'm just using it for shifting. That's what I was doing.
I actually find that generally, I don't steer much in a race because if you have the plays enabled with steering, the auto steer is pretty good. But if I don't have the plays activated with steering, the auto steering for non-steerers is still not great. But the auto steering for steerers is pretty decent. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but the guys that don't have the plays at all, the auto steer can be, it's okay in a large group. When you get into a small group, it can be a little odd because you kind of end up off to the side sometimes.
Yeah. It's the past 2 races I've done, the ladder race Friday, and then today I did a coast crusher thing. The steering is like, it's so frustrating because like one guy steers and then it just causes chaos.
I like the steering, but I get aggravated about the oversteerers, right?
Yes.
The hyper steerers. Like, just like it's okay to I use steering to grab the draft, but I don't really use steering. Like if I'm at the front of the group, I'm not diving to the apex of every corner and all that kind of stuff.
And this is like, I think bike choice currently is a scam, and I'm really starting to think steering is a scam.
It totally is.
Because today I was trying to make a little move.
I think shifting is a scam too now,
and
because the buttons are so small.
I dove in to take a corner, went through the next one, and I had a small gap. Well, then there was another 2 Essies. Well, the guys behind me, they weren't doing any more power, but they had the draft, and they mobbed me. When I got out of the draft, like, so it's almost, unless you're solo and you're trying to get away, maybe you got 1 or 2 guys and you're trying to go, 1 or 2 other guys with you. But if you're in any type of group, when you steer and lose the draft and get away from the other riders, it's worse. Like steering doesn't, you see those videos, I lost because of steering, whatever. Most of the time it's you lost because you didn't have the power or you missed the attack, not because of steering, because I've yet.
The thing is, people just don't know how to blame themselves.
Yeah, I got
dropped not because I got thrown out the back, it's because I haven't been training, and I didn't have the 2-minute power to hang with them. It was not cool to see my avatar go out of the draft and fall back, along with me, my heart rate going to like 180.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think this is part of the, and we'll get into I'll bring up a topic here because I did listen to the Zwift cast that had Eric Min on, but the beta Zwift Play betas are still beta. and they are not improving. And I think that
been
they
an
need
update in a long time.
right. The thing is I don't know if they're obviously we're going to keep going into the vortex of, oh, we wish they would say this or whatever. But what they do say is not, hey, we're gradually, like, they're gradually improving the Zwift Racing Score, but they're not gradually improving the things that you use to improve your race score, right? Like, I would use steering if, like, hey, we've opened up steering more to more regions because we're selling it in more places or something like that, or hey, the shifting is better, or the braking, because like even before the race, I was going down a hill. I was trying to find another friend of the show, John Shin. Well, maybe he isn't a friend of the show. I don't know. Grim, who is one of the fellow streamer, Grim, John Shin, everybody, if you didn't know his real name. But when you see Jay Shin, right, or in one of my VODs from the week, is I was warming up and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna chase Grim down the hill. It felt like there was auto braking, and I think there is auto braking around corners. Maybe you guys can correct me, but I was going in like the straight on the down. So you go up the new road. What's the new one that I never do because I don't care? The grade, and then you get to the little turnout where you can go down the epic KOM. I've never done that. I'm like, oh, I'm going down the thing because and I do a little sprint, and then all of a sudden I'm going, and it felt like I was auto braking, but my little tail light wasn't braking like it would when I hit the Zwift Play brakes.
Like,
I'm watching a video right now
because there's no reason, right? Like I turned
yeah, but I
off.
wasn't hitting the brakes, but it felt like I was getting auto braked because my momentum. Now, has the physics changed and I just don't know it?
No, that's always been there.
That's always been there.
From the very first day of Zwift, if you're going down like a 2% grade, you will slow down.
No, it was never 2%. It only got to 4%.
No, but 4% steeper, and you were still slowing down. It's always been like that in Zwift. Zwift has some weird resistance built in underlying that you always need to pedal unless you're going down extreme downhills.
But I thought
Unless you get like the super tuck.
I was in the super tuck.
Yeah.
And I was slow. It felt like I was slowing even in the super tuck.
They've lightened up the auto braking some, because it used to be like if you stopped, like you'd come to a complete stop on a 1% downhill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
done that. It was up to 3%, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. So Casey, you might know this. Were you in an event? Or you were just free riding, Kelson?
I would free ride.
Warming up. Yeah.
Free ride, just warming up.
There is a complete different braking dynamic versus free ride versus race.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. What year is this? I've been a member for how long? I didn't even get my email because I didn't sign for that stupid hat. But what year is it? And I'm now finding out about this?
There is a complete
they
difference.
modified something with the super tuck. It's been like two or 3 years ago where like it's even different in different kinds of events. Like it's like one way in a race, it's one way in a group ride. If you do a meetup, it's like free riding.
I wanted all this.
Our ladder races react differently than a race because a ladder race is a private event that's set up more like a meetup or like a group ride versus a race. So we find a little bit different things. I actually noticed it, Brian White, with you. I watched your replay the other day, yesterday, of your ladder race, and I was like screaming at the TV, like, why are you pedaling? You were going down the hill in Bologna. And you started pedaling. If you go back and look at that, you were going like 93 kilometers per hour. You started pedaling like 40 watts and your speed dropped to 80. And I'm like, coast, quit pedaling, right? Because you broke the super tuck and you slowed down 10 kilometers. And that's exactly what you're talking about, right?
Okay. Yeah. So let me ask you this. If I ride around, free riding around to practice things for race-like situations,
it can be different. That
is not what I'm going to be getting when I get in a race.
No.
Are you kidding me?
I think
I am not joking right now. That is insane.
It's mainly with the braking. It's not the dynamics. I don't think. It's
so
like more
okay. This is why everyone just does events, because they can just practice. Because you can't ride around for free. You just have to do. Oh, it's a recovery ride. Oh no, I'm practicing the physics. I'm doing whatever. Because they're different. That is insane. That is insane. That is a competitive, whatever, casual. I'm challenging myself. The physics are different for an event versus free riding. You got to be kidding me. I can't believe that.
Yeah, that's true. I want to go back to where you started this, though, Brian. Like, you're talking about the plays and what, like, still in beta. So I was doing the math in my head. I know I got the Zwift Hub 1 last October, and I think I already had the plays when I got the Hub 1.
Yeah, I think the
virtual
plays came out in
shifting.
July.
So we're like 18 months
yeah.
into them. What has been an improvement other than minor firmware and them? They're not really playing with the plays at all. They're tweaking the auto steering and doing some stuff.
Yeah.
But where's our like mappable buttons? Right? Let us like you said, you don't like the shifting buttons. Let
Oh
BK
no! I
change
don't want a remapping of stuff. I'm against that.
Where are they?
I like the locked down. I just want a bigger button, like.
But you want it locked down your way, not my way.
No. I don't. What do you mean lock down? No, I want Zwift to lock it down however they want it. I think that when you have custom stuff, I'm not into that. What I'm for is I just want a bigger surface area for the button.
You want the shift buttons bigger.
I want a large.
You want
the sliver that is the little shifter thing because it's on the little edge of the thing. Yeah, for everyone that doesn't know.
Here's
that. I want a larger surface area. That's what I want.
Right there. That's
you mounted them in the right spot. They're real easy to find.
You want the plays from the Zwift Ride.
They're mounted perfectly fine.
The Zwift Ride plays are way bigger.
Yeah, Lee, I'm with Lee. How those look, I would like to try.
Yeah, I
don't have virtual shifting anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm fine. Not how small the buttons are. I only use my Zwift plays for giving kudos because it's right there. It's like kudos,
I actually only use my Zwift plays. I shift
power
because
up.
No, look behind. That's my favorite button is look behind.
So I've stopped giving the kudos in the races because I still have on the confetti socks, and I'm to the point now where I don't want to give away that I'm level 100 and I have that experience.
Oh, people know already.
I'm doing so much.
Everybody looks at everybody on Zwift.
I am having so much
You guys
fun.
dive in deep. There's so many people. We'll get into this now. There's so many. I think there's a larger. I think the problem that we have in the community. Well, I don't really focus on the Facebook group that you guys are in, but it is like the Scarlet Letter. It's like the Salem witch hunts. It's like going after singular things instead of like we should all combine and go after the source of the issue, which is the people that have made the Zwift Racing Score or the Zwift Plays and say, hey, we would like to have like the community as much as they listen to the community, because that was a lot of what I heard was the community. I heard the word community. That should be a new drinking game. You should drink your
every time
whatever.
Brian Min says community.
Brian or Eric
Min. Yeah.
The Brian Min can say it too.
I keep looking
community
at you. And,
is like,
you know what? I have to interrupt for a quick sec because it's been 33 minutes and I've been waiting for a pause in the conversation, but you have no mustache.
Yes. It only took. I got rid of the mustache. I
recognized it right away, but this has been like nonstop.
A lot of people
have been like trying to be polite and just waiting for a moment.
It took half a day for my wife to notice. It took. It took like
you
a whole day.
Shaved it without your wife telling you to shave it?
No, I got tired of it. I was like, I'm going to cut this off. I told her, and I think she tunes me out like everyone else on this show probably. I was tired. You have to really, it's not like a beard. Like a beard I've had before. You guys have seen me with a beard. It's like you can shave the cheeks and your neck and you're good. With a mustache, it felt like it was more like I was worried about, if you nick one side a little bit more, then you have to do the other side. And then it's growing into your lip and all these other things. And I was like, it was kind of cool to check and see how much gray hair I have in it. And I'm like, I'm done. So it's just gone because I just want to just shave, like, because I shave in the shower without a mirror. And so, I had to I did the mustache without it and it was all weird. And then I tidied it up when I get out of the shower. But most of the time I don't like spending time in the shower. I go in there, I scrub down and shave. Sometimes I brush my teeth in the shower because I just don't want to deal with it. And then I get out and I dry and I do all my whole routine. That's not like I do it because I need to do it. I just don't like spending. I like being optimal. That's why I shaved. There you go.
So, besides your baby face, the whole Eric Min conversation.
Yeah. I think they're changing their business. I think they're going into live events.
Yeah, so I don't know who said that. Truck Travel.
Yeah, I said that. That was me. That was me.
Yes, is that really sustainable? Like, is
no. This is just reckless. Okay, preface this reckless speculation. Speculation.
Yes.
I was listening to the Zwiftcast, which is the new iteration. They have, can't remember her name. Sharon.
It's Rebecca something.
Oh yeah.
Rebecca.
And Dave Toll.
So this is my, just because I'm listening to it. Like, it's not Nathan, it's not Shane, and obviously Simon. So I had no idea who. Obviously, I know who Dave is, Dave Toll. But who was she? Like, she's like a TV personality that I didn't know this, so I had to look her up. And so I think this is what irritates me more than anything.
You got a really pause.
There was almost smoke rolled out of his ears with that filter running, right?
Why does it matter? You want me to say it before you? Hold on a second. No, it's not annoying. Hold on a second. Any show, like if I get fired from this show, which probably won't happen, but you can have new hosts. Why?
You can have new hosts.
You can have new hosts. They have new hosts. It's whatever they want to do with the show. I'm just talking about the content of the show. You can get fired up like, oh, they should have these people. If those people want to, I mean, we had Nathan on last week. If Nathan wanted to leave or whatever he wanted to do, that's his freedom. If he got let go, that's too bad. And you know, like that's what happens is things change.
The thing is,
but if you go look at sports though, like you go look at a sports desk or something like that, right? You may have one guy that maybe doesn't know the sport very well, but is very good at driving the conversation and working the room and getting everybody's opinion and kind of, you know, guiding things along. But you need the experts too.
I totally agree.
That's what they're missing.
No.
There's no expertise there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that is the reason why you can't have new hosts.
Bev has rode more than one of the hosts this year. Come on.
There's
kills me.
Hold on. There's front office people that have never played a professional down of American football, but they're still good at their analysis, right? You don't need to swing a bat in the major leagues to be a good director of personnel and find talented players, right? So the case that you need to have 100, you need to be 100. You don't need to be 100. It's better, but it's not a necessary thing.
I understand.
You can ask the tough questions, and I think the previous iteration of hosts did that. So I agree with you.
It's in-house, and I think that is just what you get from an in-house paid for podcast. You're going to get an hour of advertising. They're not necessarily going to broach the hard topics. And I think the first episode back, you could tell the hosts were very gun shy about not even going close to the line of what would be acceptable to your boss, which was, you know, Eric Min in the conversation. And it, you know, if you go on social media, everyone thought the same thing. It was a 1 hour love fest advertisement.
Right.
Maybe other episodes will get better, but that's just the nature. It's the Zwift cast owned by Zwift.
Right. And so my reckless speculation, yes, I totally agree with that. My reckless speculation is just what was presented. Instead of going into like what should have been said and they should have asked this, and I was like, no. I just want to focus on what was said. Right? That's my take. We can spend all day of like, oh, it should be that. Well, that's this show. We get to say what we want to say, and people can critique us and be like, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying that, like, I'm using it as content to go to comment on it, to go, hey, what are they saying? Because we don't get to hear Eric Min speak very often. And when we do get to hear what he has to say, I want to analyze it because I want to hear more. I'm getting more from you two that have told me that the event physics are different than the race or the free ride physics. That frustrates me to no end, as you could hear it on this show. But when I was listening to it, I was like really just like kind of, because I heard some pre-comments, you know, like the stuff we were talking about just now is like, oh, none of this, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying like, well, let's just go with what was said. And it seemed like two main topics when they had Eric Min on and they had Matt Stevens and they had other stuff. And good luck to their show. I'm glad that they found their footing, they're back in, whatever. That's great. Good to them. What I'm saying from the Eric Min thing was the two things I took away from was Dave asked him about the real life event, which was the Tour de France avec Zwift, which is a real life event, which is not a Zwift event. It's real life. It's sponsored by Zwift, but it's real people doing real things outside, not on Zwift.
Yep.
And the other thing was Zwift Community Live in real life in doing things outside, from what I understand, or come to a hotel and use Zwift Ride. I don't know exactly what the details are, but those were the two main things. Whether they're sponsored, they're both sponsored events, but they're outside, not Zwift things. And that was the thing that was like, well, they're changing their business. It seems like they're changing their business. That's just reckless speculation. Maybe they're just focused on the marketable things right now because the game is sort of where it is now. So but that's my take.
The hotel Zwift Ride thing does make sense, because how many people have been in a hotel with Peloton and say, hey, this is kind of cool, and then invest into it? So I can see that.
Yeah, but I'm not going to Mallorca or wherever they're going to go to a hotel gym and ride Zwift.
Yeah, so
I'm going to Mallorca to ride outside.
Yeah, so exactly. But I mean, like, if I'm going to Miami and they have a Zwift Ride in there, I've never seen Zwift Ride. Oh, what is this? Oh, this is kind of cool, So that aspect of
totally get that. That's a bit. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, and they touched on a little bit where Dave was kind of saying, "Hey, it would be I can take my phone into the hotel and do the thing if they have a Zwift Ride. That's great. Great. Get him across the country. Get him across the world. That's fine. But what's going on in the game? Like, what's the game? Are they focused on the game?
He never broaches that. And honestly, like, I don't know if it's the interviewers not asking the questions, but I have not seen a single interview with Eric Min that I've given a rat's ass about. Like, literally the DCR one, him on the last Zwift cast, him
the Bloomberg
one, even that. Like, he is like political to an extreme, and he just goes around in circles. Like, he hasn't said anything of substance, and the stuff he does say is baloney.
The John
we're
Mayfield.
going to listen to the community.
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah.
We're going to listen. Oh, we should listen to the community. Dude, like, he shouldn't do interviews. Honestly, like, he just drives me bananas.
If you can find John Mayfield interviews, and they're few and far between, they are much more insightful.
Okay. Yeah, I think he did the
Mayfield's a developer. That's why he knows the game.
Yeah,
he knows behind the wall.
He came on and did that Jarvis, whatever the Jarvis thing.
Yeah, he did the Jarvis one, and there was another excellent one, and I posted it in Discord somewhere. I'll have to search for it, but it was like Go ahead. It was like 3 years old. It was weird. It was recorded 3 years ago and then just released like in August or September. It was really weird how it was delayed, but it was excellent. So
wait, what? That was recorded 3 years ago?
Yeah, I was saying it was like 2021 they were recording it, and they just released it. The Mayfield interview where he's talking about the beginnings. Yeah, he's talking about Jarvis.
That was not recent?
No. I don't know why.
That's weird.
It gave you an insight, because all the things we're getting now, the workouts were originally designed as a portal. We got the climb portal. You know what I mean? Like all this stuff.
I get that. I'm just thinking that the way that the Jarvis thing was such an inside joke sort of thing. It was like only the beta people that rode on it will appreciate it. I think there's an outside look in it.
Appreciate it.
No, I know. Well, you're Casey. You're a unique person, but I'm just saying that, or unique in the sense that you are not glossed over by, or you're not Jedi mind tricked or whatever. The hey, this is the thing. Like, we did this loop for years, and now we're like, this is the new thing. I think we touched on it when it first was announced, but the way that it's put on this pedestal, that it's this like thing, I think it's a monumental thing for them. It was like, hey, this is the first thing, but now that it's like. How they didn't expand upon it, like if you take Nintendo would take like the original level of Super Mario Brothers, and they would enhance it, which they kind of enhanced it, but they just enhanced it cosmetically, right? It's a cosmetic thing. They didn't it feels like they didn't do.
And a lot was talked about. A lot was talked about with that, because too they were saying, oh, it's going to be so great for all the people who didn't experience Jarvis to experience Jarvis.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. And then everyone got it and they're like, Jarvis. Like no one really actually cared as much as the people in Zwift headquarters cared about it.
Jarvis was exciting because Jarvis was our alternative to a green line in Trainer Road, right? But Jarvis, after you all have had Watopia and London and Yorkshire, and there's nothing amazing about it. There's a reason why it was retired, is because it was 5 kilometers of road that you got bored of really quickly, right? And they couldn't fit that many. I mean, we had a couple hundred people on there, and it's packed, right? Like when we actually started building up, it was basically they needed a bigger road,
and they built it as a one-way in, one-way out. So when you're on Jarvis, you're stuck. You can't get off of it. It's just
it keeps turning you in there. Like if you get to the volcano, you used to like be stuck in the volcano. Well, now when you're in the volcano, boom, straight to Jarvis, and you're just in Jarvis.
I would have liked to have seen it had a couple inroads, right, where you could cut through Jarvis and do half a rotation and jump out somewhere else.
That little hill climb, the hill climb is cool, but that would have been cool to cut in, do the hill, cut out. Like you could use little bits and pieces of it as part of other routes.
All right. Do you guys want to comment on the live event take or no? You guys think that they're leaning towards more?
That's just for that. I don't understand the live event thing, right? They have 1 million people, right? We've heard it. They got 1 million people. You get 2,000 people to a live event. That's 0.2% of their entire population. Like why? What are we doing other than, is this stroking their own ego to get people to come see them, like to get a photo op? Or
I think it is. I think it's the starting of a TwitchCon PlayStation experience, which I was involved with when I worked there. And it's like it's a coming of people that are way into it. If you're way into it, it's going to be fun.
I'm kind of scared to go to a Zwift Con with a bunch of guys who ride 10,000 miles indoors every year and never hit the pavement, right? I don't want in that peloton. If I'm going to go outside and ride in this huge group ride, I want the guys that are riding outside all summer long. Right?
No, I think a TwitchCon, a Zwift Con would be bring your trainer, bring your bike, and we're going to ride in a giant convention center all together. That's what I think it would. That's what it should be, but I don't know if they could get people to show. I think people would show up for that because people. I remember I went to the first TwitchCon and it was like much smaller than it is now. It's a lot bigger.
For a fraction of the cost, they could do thousands of the things they used to do, which was setting it up at random, like large bike shops in big cities where they were there for one business day, and anybody that came in their street shoes could hop on a trainer and do a KOM challenge, and the guy at the end of the day that had the fastest KOM wins $100 or whatever it is, right? They did that kind of stuff. What was it? Jonathan Levy, out there in Oregon, he won one of those and like got a kicker trainer out of the deal or something, right? He was in his basketball shoes, in the bike shop. Like do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, if I'm going, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like I am not, when I go on vacation to ride my bike, if I'm going somewhere, like I want to do my thing. So this has no interest in me. Like even for the cost, I will much rather go to Mallorca on my own, probably for cheaper, really. And then
you have a travel agent in your family, so
or Girona, one of those 3 places that I want to go on my own and do my own thing. I like riding with my friends, don't get me wrong, but like normally I have a finite amount of time. If I have 2 hours to ride, I'm maximizing those 2 hours. So like if I'm waiting, if they want to take a different route, if one of us gets a flat tire or whatever, things like that. So like I like an antisocial rider when it comes to being outdoors.
I don't think we're the customer for this sort of
we're totally
community
not.
live.
But our opinions,
they probably maybe they have data to go, hey, we really have a good social, because it's a social platform. Zwift is now a social platform. It is not especially with the pausing of the elite racing. It's like Let's just focus on the social stuff.
So would it be different? Like, I'll ask the Bryans here because I kind of know your guys' geography a little bit. So we're talking about something like, for me, this is international travel, right? Like my family dynamic would be like, no, right?
Yeah,
Like, hell no, right? We're spending that kind of money. I'm going with you, and we're doing something funner than that. But like Brian White, if it's Blue Ridge Parkway Zwift thing, are you doing it? Brian Callison, is it if it's Thousand Oaks, Hills of LA thing, are you doing it when it's more convenient for you if they do it closer to home?
Am I somebody who really loves Zwift? Because I'm not doing it if it's me right now. There's no way. But if it was like, oh my God, Zwift. If it was like, if this was like
RGT hosts,
I wouldn't even do it for RGT.
Loops.
Oh my goodness! I watched the video. I watched the 2023 national champs. I was cleaning out at the drive, and I really miss RGT. I really miss RGT.
So I'm just curious.
I felt like I was like, oh man, this feels so.
And you're
good.
not even reading chat.
I'm just watching video.
I was poking at you about
I'm
RGT
not even reading
in chat like 30 minutes ago.
Not even reading chat. I really miss RGT.
Is this Mallorca place they're doing the Zwift Community Live, which the name is just a sore spot for me, but is it the same thing that they do for Zwift Academy? Is it like the same?
I think actually Mallorca is like the #1 spot for most world tour teams and tourists to go
good.
ride.
Yeah, it's a place where Europeans can go and not have it raining all the time, even though it does rain on them every once in a while. But it's more like, it's like a lot of teams go to Southern California, like San Diego. There was a lot of pros go to LA or San Diego and train in January, like late December, January, because it's not free. It's cold, but it's not freezing cold, and you can ride. You can get like a week's ride with no rain.
Yeah.
With climbing. That's the thing. Mallorca also has like a big climb, I think, in it too, right? It has rural.
Yeah.
Well, San Diego has that LA mountains. There's like places you can go.
Yeah. So yeah,
but no, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm not going. No.
I'd much rather.
I would love if it was like something I would really be into. Yeah, then I would be like, oh, I'm into this. I want to do that.
But you three show up an 8-hour drive from me, and I'm going to go meet you guys, right? Like we
Yeah.
all
Oh,
end
yeah.
up. But I'm not doing that for Zwift HQ, right? I'd like to actually know the stats of people
but
who actually
think
go to this or probably aren't like big time Zwifters.
Right, but I think this is kind of what the TwitchCon thing is, or Comic-Con, right? Because I grew up going to Comic-Con. Now, I was in San Diego, so I didn't have to travel to San Diego to go to do my nerd stuff. But there's a lot of, and not a derogatory term now because everyone's into it, but people would travel and meet other people that they know in the world and go, hey, this is a place where we're all going to meet up, regardless if it's Comic-Con putting it on. So Zwift doesn't put this on, and it can become this whatever catalyst for, hey, I'm going to see the Coalition crew. Like all of Coalition's going. I'm not on Coalition, but I'm just using them as an example.
There's teams that do that themselves.
Oh yeah,
I used to go to Arizona.
Right, but it's instead of doing the live event competition for the elites, how do we tap into it? It's a business decision to tap into all the other casual riders and get them to sort of enjoy a larger scale event that brings the community together. And I think that maybe Zwift has analyzed that and has data to go, hey, this could be something that we could, venture into. And that's why I think they talked about it so much.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's my reckless speculation,
frustrating.
right?
It's
frustrating. Of course, I want him to
because-
go, hey, Brian, we fixed the physics for you. That's what I would love for him to say, but he's not saying that. And so I'm not going to spend my whole time listening to that podcast. I'm traveling for 3 hours, driving around, and I'm waiting for him to say something that I know he's not going to say. It's like, well, what did he say? He said this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to analyze what he said.
Yeah. I don't know. I can
it's
see.
Okay, Brian, you can let it out.
I can just see where. So I guess my thought process, like I'm trying to put this together without sounding like an idiot, and it didn't work out. If they already own that place for the Zwift Academy where they do the videos, do all that, and they're using that location to utilize and to like justify the cost of that and maintaining it, to offset it. That makes sense. You know what I mean? Bring in
The live events
Yeah.
place that they
Right.
do they probably they probably have a lease on it, or they own it. They bought the
Right.
property.
So I could see that, and then it, like you said, it does bring community together. It's just not. It just doesn't interest me for the cost, because I know I've priced out going to Lake Garda, Italy, and I can do it relatively cheap. The flights are the biggest thing, because that's like with Trek travel and all these other things. The cost for me to fly to this is a pain in the ass, like huge. It's more than the actual trip and stuff in cases. So,
Right.
you know,
But there's the people with the undisposed or whatever
yeah,
indispensable or disposable income that buy
Yeah.
the $15,000 road bike, and they have what other, and so they're also trying to tap into that instead of the budget, hey, speed sensor, wheel on trainer guy
yeah.
that wants to meet up with their buddies. That's, I don't think the clientele they're looking for, right?
Oh, this is
Yeah,
definitely
right.
geared towards like the haves, the retired people that got nothing else to do. And yeah, why not? I'll go up to see Zwift Community Live. It makes
Yeah.
me feel dirty just saying that.
I wish it did have a
Anytime.
different name. I'm with
Zwift
you.
Community Live.
Yeah,
I wish it, like I've said this before, like,
Nathan, we're with you.
yeah, I understand that, like, but it has, he built Zwift Community Live,
Mhm.
but it had Zwift in the name, so it's kind of weird to kind of like, you should have, I wish Zwift would have come up with their own thing
Yeah,
to have it, not to be separate, to be like, oh, it's more of like, I just don't like the Zwift Community Live as a live event, because it's been established as a
right.
community live viewing of things, and sort of like, it's not the naming stature that could go along with a live, like, in-person thing. I used to work at a place where we did the PlayStation experience, and that wasn't like the PlayStation networking, or it tried to be like something that's already got a name. It came up with its own name, like have your own different branding for the thing that you're trying to do. The PlayStation experience, or like don't do like the Xbox Live, or don't do, like, come up with your own thing and be like, this is what it is. It's a convention or a travel destination thing.
Well, it just seems like a weird thing to erase the entire internet history of Zwift Community Live so they could use the name for this trip. Like, they didn't really need to go that far. And it seems
Awkward,
a waste.
right?
Yeah,
It seems a
It's
waste.
for the people that have been around for a long time. It just seems awkward, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it would have had a different name. It wouldn't seem weird. It wouldn't seem weird to the OGs that have been around for a long time.
So I think part of me is the two original community things. Zwift kind of came in and like armbarred their way in to take over it for their own
yeah,
thing.
Totally did.
It's like the eminent domain. It's like the farmer that's not selling his farm. They come and take it anyway.
Well, if you
know?
remember though, like 3 years ago, they came into all the Zwift Facebook groups and all that, and if the word Zwift was used, they took control, right? They put the moderators in place. They did all that. If you were using Zwift, the full name of Zwift, in the things that you were doing, they shut you down or they took it over. That
Yeah.
some guys were doing like Z Racing, right? But they weren't using the full word and they got by with it.
Yeah.
But if you were using the word Zwift had to have their hands in it or they shut you down.
Yeah, that's
that's kind of standard practice. I mean, Nintendo
Yeah, and
does that a lot.
I'm not
Yeah,
faulting them for that,
yeah.
but that was the first cycle of that, right? And the few things that stayed with that affiliation now, they've gotten their hands into a little deeper.
Well, we wanted them to take over with Zwift Power, right? Didn't everyone want them to take over Zwift Power?
Just pull the plug. Put it out of its misery.
Well, they can't
Just-
pull the plug until they move or have better data on their Zwift.com website.
yeah.
We'll figure it out, right? I think a lot of it's there. We just don't. It's so much easier at Zwift Power because that's what we know.
Well,
But-
the Zwift Racing Score isn't on Zwift Power, is it? Or is
right,
it?
Yeah.
people are asking to add
No.
it, and I'm like, no, pull the plug.
No.
Yeah, don't add it.
No.
Just pull the plug.
Remove it from.
It shows in the profile by your name what your score is, but in the results, it doesn't show the score.
Oh, okay.
Can we
Yeah.
talk about how terrible Zwift Racing Score is?
Let's get into
terrible.
it. We've got
I mean,
a whole
like,
hour.
it
We've got a
just-
whole hour. Let's
no,
get into
it
it.
is
Sorry,
ter-
that was sarcastic. It was not terrible. It is awesome. It's amazing.
Well,
Not-
but Lee, I'm having to race guys that can do 4.3. How is that
Okay,
fair?
hold on a second. All right.
Oh.
I'm gonna be the
So,
the
actually, I didn't
hold
screenshot.
Hold on a second. You guys are like the number crunchers. You're like so into Zwift Racing Score. Please explain it again for all the people that maybe are new to the show. What is Zwift Racing Score, and why do we care?
You go ahead, Casey.
Zwift Racing Score is an algorithm that Zwift put in place that is your baseline is set based on now a 5-minute power number, and then you deviate up and down from your baseline based on race results. So the goal is to be a results-based ranking system that ultimately splits you into the 5 starting pins for a race and matches you against people who have similar ability to perform in the race, not necessarily similar physical power. So, and I say my jokes, and I don't know if BK even realizes that I'm, I know he knows I don't think Zwift Racing Score is terrible. I have been having fun trolling the last week.
Yeah.
Races,
Yeah.
I've done, my last 2 races have been under 3 watts per kilogram, and I upgraded to pin 1 in the last race. I won pin 2 with a 2.9, and the next highest average in an over hour race was 3.5, and I think there was 4 guys in my pack that were over 4.0, and I was under just barely 3.0 for an average, and everybody's crying because how am I supposed to compete against these guys?
All right.
Hey, they suck.
Yeah.
They can't race.
All right, let me ask you this. This is a question for the panel. Big if here, if the entire community embraces Zwift Racing Score and really goes all in, tons of data, no complaints, whatever, and everything is going to spec, is it going to be better if everyone does just races full speed and does everything? So it's more data, right? That's my question. If we all embrace it and do it, it's going to be even better than sort of where we are now.
I think the more people race for results, the better it's going to be. The problem is a lot of people are joining races to get a good effort. They don't really care if they get 3rd or 15th in the sprint. So they will pull the entire race, lose the sprint because they don't care about the finish position, and therefore their score goes down, but they've got big power. Then people are used to this old school. They look at the power and they're like, I can't compete against that guy because he's too strong.
So does that affect other race scores? People that are focused on race score, that affects their race score. Not only does it affect the person who's doing that effort and not winning the sprint and doesn't care about the result, but does it affect other people that are really focused on race score? Or should we just not really have race score and just have it in the back end and not really view it? And like, are we spending too much time focusing on it as another stat we got to look at? Or if we just had it if Zwift just put it hidden and use it as a matchmaking tool for themselves, would we care?
I think if Zwift hid this, if I go back to like your HUD you were talking about earlier, right? If you took all the data away from people and you said, was it a good race? They're like, oh, it was really hard, but I finished 7th out of 25 guys. Like I did all right, right? But no, they're looking at the race and being like, well, the guy in first place could have done 5.5, and he there's no way I'm ever going to compete against him. But if you actually objectively look at the racing, like they pushed me to my limit, but not over my limit. I was able to perform well at the finish. Like if you actually looked at it without the data, I'm with. I think Lee, throw your challenge out there, man. This is it.
So I'm going to preface the challenge with I have read through every social media ZRS sucks post. I have read every comment. I have scoured. Brian White and I spent over an hour going through Zwift Power races. The problem is people say it sucks. No one can show their work. Someone will say exactly the opposite of what Casey, well, I did a 2.9 and the winner did a 4.2.
Hold on, you're saying work. What do you mean?
show your work. Like if you are going to propose something sucks.
You mean evidence to back your claim that it sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, not the work that you've done in a race or an event or something like that.
And so anytime I've asked, show your evidence, show your work.
Okay.
The comments usually stop. The problem is people will look at outliers. A guy will go in a race and he'll look at last place and say, well, 70th place, he did a 2.1. And first place or fifth place did a 3.2. Well, yeah, the last place guy fell off the back on a hard climb and he just tootled to the end. Yes, he did a 2.2. If you look at the top 20 of almost every single Zwift Power ZRS race, it's all even. Casey's beating 4.2 guys at 2.9 because he's smart. I think the bigger problem with Racing Score is the racers themselves. People have zero clue on race tactics. Racing is not about pulling the group. Everyone, stop pulling the group. If you're pulling the group, you're doing it wrong. You should be, it's like watch Tour de Pharmacy when they have that pull the group skit. Well, then train. Go ahead.
Okay, hold on a second. But I want to make it harder on people. I want to pull the group.
Yes, if you want to launch,
I'm not going to complain about it's.
But see, you
race
are a smart
however
racer.
you want, but don't comment on Racing Score because it doesn't matter. Just race. That's what it comes down to. That, in my opinion, is just I don't care if there's a number there. I don't care whatever it is. You just race.
Yeah.
And people. That's the thing is people don't know that they suck. That's the thing is people don't know they suck. I'm sorry, you suck. You are not that good. You may think you're that good. You're not that good. I'm not even that good. I know I suck though. That's the point that we're getting to, right? Or that's at least my point.
So no, 100%. So my challenge is everyone, viewers, anyone watching this, anyone hearing this video, in the comments on the YouTube video, post why. Give me some evidence of why ZRS sucks, because I can't find it. I have never seen races that are this evenly matched everywhere. Yes, there is the odd person that doesn't quite, match up, but the top 20 of every race is like 0.3 watts per kilo close. Like the race I brought up to Nathan last week, there was 70 riders. The difference between first and 70th was 35 seconds. How can you say ZRS isn't working?
It doesn't. It's not. It's the thing is they're not. What they need to replace is Zwift Racing Score sucks is I suck. That's what they need to start saying to themselves.
Racing is not about going as hard as you can.
But when you get better, because you stop worrying about the race score, race the race, and when you successfully do better than you think you are going to do, that is the win. But people are so focused on, oh my God, I can't win anymore because whatever. It's like, well, it was the Wild West. Everyone was just going around like everyone 15, and we're gonna get into this because they're gonna trim all the races finally.
I don't think.
And I'm not gonna have any races to race on Zwift. So why am I gonna go to? Well, the only thing I have to do is Zwift Community Live in real life to get a race with people because I'm gonna have 0 races in the middle of in the evening in California.
If they trim all the races that have less than 30 participants, they're going to cut 4 hours.
How many races I've done with 4 people?
Nothing.
Come on. Bike Terra. I'm going to do Bike Terra, MyWhoosh, whatever, the other stuff, Training Peaks. But yeah, I'm with you, Lee, on the, you can't find evidence of going, well, I'm blaming everything else except for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, hold on, let me finish this comment because I want people to not just clip it and go, well, he says everyone sucks. I'm like, it's not saying everyone sucks. I'm saying you need to understand that racing and coming in first is very hard. It's very hard. And when you do it, if you ever do it, I had it in my mind that I was never going to do it. I've lucked out and have won a few races in my life. But when you have the idea of like, I'm never going to win, but I'm going to try my best every time, the satisfaction of you improving in that is so much it's worth way more than your Zwift Racing Score or any score in the matter of that, wherever you want to quantify that. That's my period. Done. Moving on.
I watched a stream. There were 70 people in it. And I forget the course. It ended at the Jarvis Sprint. It went up like hilly KOM, then came across Jarvis Sprint. I have no idea what it was. the actual course, but I only caught, say, the last 6 kilometers or 8 kilometers. So this person, I mean, was just a fraction off from making the initial front selection. Well, the group behind chased, and they came to a sprint at the end. So there's like 20-ish people in this final sprint going to it. And the initial reaction, so this person got to the finish, finished 18th, and was just like, what am I going to do? How? Dude, you had 20-ish people in a group sprint out of 70, and you were right there. You didn't win, but how can you complain? Because the race was competitive, and that's what we're looking for. You know, you were there. That person, that's where I see, like, I'm in a top group, so I'm racing guys that are like the guy I did today. Literally just rode off the front, did 5.3 watts per kilogram, and the group behind attacked each other, and you know, we were all over the place with attacks and stuff, and we weren't organized. But I came in 7th out of 12 or something like that, and that guy won by 35 seconds. You know, he just rode off the front, whatever. No one chased him, and everyone in the race, I was the lowest watts per kilogram at 4.4, like for the 20-minute, you know, on Zwift Power. But everyone else was stronger than me. But I finished right with him. I just was so dead. I even hit 183 heart rate today, which was my highest.
Because we only see the way that we watch other races or other competitions is you see the winners. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I've learned over the years as being a cyclist is the success is not always on the podium. It is everyone else's struggles, man. It's like I remember being in that moment of like, this is a 35-4 race, which is, you know, there's like 15 people maybe. And the success of like getting 4th place, right? Of like, oh my goodness, I battled other people my age, you know, doing that and digging through and pushing through. That is not something that Zwift or any online sport can nurture currently. I think it can nurture it through events, but it's hard to do because it's so virtual. There's no like audio, there's like text, and like, hey, you know, a lot of people haven't dug super deep to push through to do that when it comes to a competition within oneself or a competition against others. Is that sort of camaraderie of, hey, that was tough. When you hear that, like the next time you watch a professional race, watch like the Tour de France of women, Tour de France Femme, like all those women when they're done and they have like they are like the ones that like explain so much more in depth, like what's her name, Utwig, she's like, I can't remember where she just moved over, but she was like so, or the Matej Mohoric, those interviews where he's like, I was off the back like 2 days ago, I barely think I could finish. That's what the struggle is, and that's where like you learn. I've learned so much from like, it was hard for me to like blame Zwift. I would always blame myself when I would get popped up, because you learn when you first go, everyone shoots off the front. Like, it's like, oh, it's going, and then it'll settle down, right? And then you can hang. That's like a group ride. These little things, it's hard to get that across in the virtual space. I think we as the community need to do that instead of trying to, and Lee, you guys are doing yeoman's work on trying to address each person individually. I don't have the patience for it. I would be like,
I think in general, ZRS is getting more, the whiny ZRS posts are actually getting way more comments of like, it works.
Yeah.
I just think it's just race tactics, race knowledge is lacking. I mean, I was there at one point. I thought a race meant I went as hard as I could, as long as I could, and that was what racing was.
Well, that's the race with you. So there's multiple races that go on. There's a race inside your mind. You're racing against, you're like going against yourself, like, I don't want to quit. Because then there's the race within yourself, like, hey, how can I finish against all these other people? Then there's the actual race of like racing to try to place. That's where it's like, it's hard because a lot of these people, I think, at least in my opinion, a lot of these people are not seasoned racers, they're using this for exercise and they want to dip into this, to the competitive side of it, which is great. But there are people that spend too much time focusing on the results instead of focusing on the journey and the process. And that's where we lose a lot of that, because there's just do a workout and do an event. So maybe try to wrap this up, because I'm repeating myself. I know that. If we trim those races that don't really mean anything and we have a very fine-tuned racing schedule, we will show up more invested. I know I will. It's going to frustrate me because of a convenience, but like when Sunday Race Club goes off, and I know Brian is up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do a race at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, would I do a 2 o'clock? Would I wake up at 2 o'clock to do it? When you do these high stakes races, not saying that all the Zwift schedule will be like that, but Casey, you got like, instead of 4 races you can choose from, you have 1 race now that you can do in your time slot. And you're like, wow, I'm really going to focus on this. I'm not going to throw it away, because there's going to be a point, and this is a thing that I said to myself when I was first starting to race as a masters racer, starting to really focus on it, is there will be a moment where I'm not able to race anymore. As we get older, there might be a point, I might be 90, 100, whatever. But if you're thinking about races that you throw away, if you think of it like, don't throw away a race, do every race as hard as you can, or try as hard as you can, because when you can't do any more races and you would love to race, then you're going to regret those races you threw away.
Yeah. And I'm okay with the guys that are, there's a lot of people joining races for the workout, and I'm okay with joining the races for the workout to an extent, right? But it's the people who are doing that, but then turning around and complaining that they're not competitive, right?
You can do whatever you want, just don't complain about it.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
ZRS changed the game, right? But not everybody wanted the game to change. So you got the people mad because you moved my cheese, right? Like Brian White's not upset going to MyWhoosh and doing Sunday Race Club, and it feels different than Zwift Racing because he made a choice to go do something different. People didn't make a choice to go to Racing Score. Zwift forced them, and it changed the dynamic of the game. And people need to understand that there's always going to be somebody near the top. No matter how you divide it, there's going to be someone near the top. And if you're not super close to that tippy top, and those people start floating around you, you start getting annoyed, right? Like, how do I get there? How do I get that lucky, right? That they drew the line right over my head. So I think we got a lot of that going on. And part of it is just, you got to accept the game for what it is. And the game changed a little bit in the racing, and figure out how to optimize it, right? How do I race better? And if I really am just aggravated because I go into a race and I do 4.4 average and I end up spit off the front because everybody races better than me, then maybe go join the A bot and do 4.4 all day long, and you don't have to feel the loss, right?
Yeah.
But if you're joining the race, that's what you should expect. And if you're not good at it, you're going to expect to get spit out the back. I mean, I'm okay with it.
I think those are great points. Those are great points.
Yeah.
And Casey's
the movement,
right.
The last point real quick is just, to me, the big win, regardless of how good or bad it categorizes people, is you move. I have been in and out of pin 1 and pin 2 like 4 times since the 1st of October, right? I'm back up. I'm in pin 1 now. I'm going to be back in pin 2 real quick, because I say this, I can't hold on in pin A, but the race that I won to get me to pin A was a mixed cat start. I mean, I got second in the sprint, but I won my category. I beat 4 other A's. I beat 2 A+ riders in that sprint. So, I mean, I can stay at pin 1 if I intentionally choose races to stay as pin 1. But if I just join legitimate, well-rounded racing, I'm gonna drop back. But to me, that's the big win, though, is the movement, right? You are not forever stuck as bottom B or bottom C cat rider anymore. You will move if you're on the border.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I was the perennial right at the top. Casey, you were there for it
was great.
I'm talking a B because it was amazing. And I would but before my knee replacement, I was physically not capable of crossing the actual A numbers. I was right there, and it was phenomenal. So like, I was the eternal sandbagger. I lived on Sandbagger Island. Well, now I'm at a race score of 800 and something. My power has went probably, I think, about 15 to 20 watts higher after the knee replacement. So like, I've gotten stronger, and my racing tactics have put me over 800 now. So it removed me from that second category, the B category, of just imposing my will. Like, I did workouts in a race. I remember in France, I did like 8 2-minute VO2 efforts. The pack never really let me get away. I got back there in the pack, drafted for 5 minutes, and sprint and won. That's where I was within the B category. And now that those guys, me, I'm gone. You have a, a better, I guess, a more competitive vision, because the guys like me are gone.
For great points. Casey, I'm going to, the forced change, I think, is a big sticking point for people when you brought that up, of like, hey, we were at categories and everyone had their number or the letter next to their name. They're like, I'm a B or I'm a C rider. How can I race against all these? And that mentality will change over time. I think the other thing too is that, like, Lee, when you go after people now that are complaining, like, hey, prove your, your dissertation, come with your stuff. Say, hey, what could you have done better in the race? Instead of prove that race score is wrong, like, what could you have done better in the race? That's the thing, is, and that's antagonistic. I get that, but it's like, we need to kind of change the way that we're approaching the conversation.
Well, a lot of the people that post actually answer their own question in the post. Because the last one I saw on Facebook, the guy actually said, I'm not a great climber. And there was like we went up this climb and I got dropped. And it's like, you just said you are not a great climber. That's the reason you got dropped. Well, you weigh 98 kilograms. You're
become
not
a better climber. Get lighter and become a better.
Or don't choose climbing races. Pick a different
I read
race.
one of those too, and he actually made his own argument against himself in the post. And I don't even know if it was the same post, but it was like all this looking at the numbers, right? It was the power numbers, and I can't compete against people with these power numbers. And then he, like in the second paragraph, he's like, I can do pretty well in a flat race. I'm usually on the podium or in the top 5 in a flat race. But as soon as it gets hilly, I'm out the back, and I'm like, dude, join the club, right? I cannot climb.
That was the exact
If you get
post.
more than 5 races in a pin 2 race, I can't climb with these guys. Well, these guys that we're doing, I'm joking around that I'm beating guys that are averaging 4.0. I can't average 4.0 for that distance. I physically can't do it right now.
Yeah.
So if you put me on a climb, they're destroying me. And then I'm just like, I'm sitting back, and I'm to me, measuring the win is like, you guys have all the power in the world. You have both, barrels loaded to blow me away if you just do it. You got to put the effort in to do it.
Like, I would, hey, what would you do in a race that that there's a 6-minute climb or a 10-minute climb? What would you do, Casey?
Me?
Yeah.
It's right now. If it's a short enough climb, probably 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. I full conserve, just like I've been doing this week, because I'm holding back due to some physical problems. I mean, I'm not being aggressive in these races, guys.
Right.
For physical reasons, but I would full hold back just to try to hang on those climbs. Right?
Would you go off the front to then get caught on the climb?
No, because if I hit that climb where I've done FTP up to it, I can't.
But the point is you can approach every race if you know to go, like, who you are, and know your tactics, and go, hey, I'm gonna get. That's like me. I'm trying to break away most of the time because I have that time trial 20-minute power. I can do a long effort to get away. But I'm also like, what was it, a couple of weeks ago when I did the race and I got away, and I was like with somebody, and I was like slowly trying to get somebody to come with me. You gotta be able to risk it to then have somebody go with you. If you can do that, but if you don't have the ability to analyze how to do that, that's where it's like, that's why we go back to, there would be a benefit from internally game tutorials of like race specific stuff.
The race breakdowns that you do, BK, like that kind of thing, like people going back after their races and analyzing what did I do right or wrong. I would encourage people, even if you don't stream.
Out of the draft. That was the last breakdown I did.
Record your race, though. Record your race and go back and reflect on what, because you will view it differently when your heart rate comes down. Because, you know, going back to what you were asking about approaching that hill, right? Like those are the type of things. But I would go into that, say I'm in a pack of 10 guys. I'm not going to try to go blow for blow with Brian White when he tries to blow up the front, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to let Brian go 3 or 4 seconds, but I'm going to do a mark around, like, I don't want to get behind 4th or 5th place, right? 1 or 2 guys go. I'm not chasing that. But if it starts getting to be 50% of the pack, I'm going to try to follow it, right? And I hope to get to the top with enough guys to pull me back.
Here's the other unwritten rule that goes along. This is, I mean, we should do a whole show on like, or take race questions or whatever, because you might have your own game plan of like, hey, I'm going to survive on this climb, and you're like, when someone attacks, I have to survive. There's also a point where there's other riders that are going the same thing. They're thinking of you, and they're like, I don't want to go hard. I don't want to blow up on the thing. I want to get over, and they're not willing to risk it on the climb, and you actually benefit by them not going super hard, and then you're there at the end, and that's race tactics. That's reading the race, but also being willing to go deep in a spot on a race that is not your forte, because others might not take advantage of you when they probably could take advantage of you.
And people look at the numbers and do the bench racing and say, he's capable of doing more than me, but he actually has to do it. He actually has to do it to make it worthwhile on the race.
That's the thing, is the risk reward is what I talk about in my breakdowns all the time, is like, I'm willing to risk this breakaway with 40 kilometers to go or whatever it is.
There's 2 things that really stuck with me. One of the first guys I raced with on Zwift for a really long time, was a good friend for a long time. 2 key things that he taught me in racing, and I think we've talked about this some. I don't know if I've ever shared it on the podcast, but 2 key things that he's always shared with me is, number 1, hit them when it hurts. You can't wait to recover to hit them, because if you're hurting, they're hurting, and you need to hurt them more, even though you're hurting, right? Like hitting them when it hurts is when you're going to be effective with race strategy. And the other one was, you don't have to go this hard to the finish line. You have to be willing to go this hard longer than they are.
Yeah.
Like if you get a break, you don't have to hold 5-0 till the end of the race. You're like, oh, I've been doing it for 3 minutes. I can't keep going. Yeah. They may give up in 10 seconds. They may drop their power from 4.5 to 2 in 10 seconds. You just have to do it longer than them. You don't have to do it till the finish line. And those, if you can get those 2 concepts, and I think that goes along with what you're saying, Brian, right? You have to be willing on those hills, right? I'll teach people, if you get one of these rolling races where you go over, like Jarvis Loops is a good example of that, right? Like you get it's the little bumps, right? If you think I can't make the finish line, every hilltop is your next finish line, right? Yeah. Your only goal is to make that hilltop. You get to that hilltop with the group, you'll figure it out, right? They may drop you on the next hill, but they didn't drop me yet, right? Yep. You just got to get to the next obstacle.
You go hard until you get dropped, and sometimes you don't get dropped. You're thinking, I'm going to get dropped.
Sometimes they get fatigued enough. Yeah, sometimes they get fatigued enough that they can't do it, right? They're hurting just as bad as you. And too many people are staring at those numbers and saying, I've averaged 4.3 for the first 20 minutes. I can't do this for the next 40 minutes, so I'm going to give up on the hill because I can't keep doing this. And I'm like, well, they may not keep doing it.
Agreed. All right.
That's my rant.
Do we even have an email for people that email questions? Do we even look at that, Lee?
I certainly do look at it all the time, and we do not get any emails.
Fantastic. That sounds perfect. I don't need any. Come on. You think we need to listen to people? Come on. We're just spewing things out here. Go ahead, Brian.
Yes.
But I wanted to address something that...
as you pair your power meter in the background?
Yeah, my Sunday Race Club restarted.
Oh, hey, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you do steering in a Sunday Race Club?
I've never tried. They're steering in MyWhoosh, but you gotta use the keyboard, and I've never tried in Sunday Race Club.
Because that was part of my thing when I asked you about the drafting. Like if you could see the green numbers, because there's no like percentage that gives you an indicator, it just shows that you're in draft. It's just green. That's the one.
Draft bubble's small as hell. Like
I'm sure it is, but like at least you in Bike Terra and old RGT, it would give you at least like RGT would give you the watts amount of savings. Bike Terra gives you a percentage of that. Training Peaks gives you a draft meter, so it gives you at least something. MyWhoosh is just green, so it's like you're in the draft. And I was thinking, can you steer? But you are allowed to steer, but you just don't do it.
Is it steering or is it positioning similar to
positioning?
Yeah, I will test this out. I'm doing a race on MyWhoosh tomorrow.
Okay.
It's if anyone is available, it's 1 p.m.
But that's a casual
Eastern
race.
time.
I'm talking like a competitive race. Are you allowed to do it?
Well, I'm going to shout out to MyWhoosh for they're doing elimination races tomorrow.
Okay.
I will try
performance elimination races or just a casual.
It's just casual. It's beta.
I was going to
share the link. I was going to share the link, but I have no idea how to share the link. So you have to either get on the MyWhoosh little link app on your phone or open the game and search through it. That's one thing MyWhoosh needs to improve is getting the events. Because you go to the website, click events, it just gives you what type of events they do have. But 1 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time, 1 p.m. Eastern. So I will do that just as fun. You know, it's just open to anyone beta. But I will test out the steering because I know it's there, but I don't use it. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was the women's racing because we have two series going on right now: the Fearless with FRR and the Restart Invitational. And I know we have
shout out to all the ladies.
Yes.
Shout out to all the ladies, man. They're big supporters of the show too.
We got Holly, who's very successful with Sunday Race Club. Elite Racer represented Great Britain. Randy just finished 6th in the Restart Invitational. Flight's doing SCR. And also the Echelon Racing League. So the ladies are crushing it. And we are super excited that
there's a lot of conversation that I lurk. Sometimes I don't chime in, but there's some great stuff, some great takes from the ladies.
Yeah. So we need to have some guests on the ladies, get their perspectives and everything.
Yeah.
So that's something that we do. I mean, it is really awesome that our small little community here is such a strong.
Oh yeah, I started listening to not only because I have a long drive. I listened to the Holly and I can't remember her other name. I started listening to one of their podcasts and they were talking about mobile devices for their children, like restrictive stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I'd probably need some of that for myself. So, but yeah, shout out to the ladies.
Yes, yeah, and it's good that
how is
ladies racing?
Yeah, and then there's the Echelon ladies racing. How's the numbers? Did anyone watch the Echelon races on Saturday? Because I didn't watch those.
I was at a robotics tournament. I didn't watch any, but didn't even pay attention. I know I forget the lady's name, but she had a list of all the people that were signed up, and it was a kind of a mixed bag. Maybe like 15 in this group, like the elite, maybe 6 in this, 10. And I don't remember the exact numbers. And I can't remember who it was. I want to say her name was Cindy, but I could be lying and making that up.
Okay.
Or Kathy. Maybe Kathy. We'll call her Kathy.
Not Beverly?
Yeah, not Beverly, no.
Wasn't Aunt Beth?
No.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, it is awesome. And I have 3 girls too. So, it's 3 daughters.
Robots.
For the women.
You have robots too, don't you have robots in the family now too?
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, my daughter won the two parts of the tournament yesterday. They won skills, which is like the programming side of it, and then the actual tournament where you're driving around and trying to score.
Would you do a robotics convention?
What
like a robotics community live thing? Would you do like how far would you travel for? What's the furthest you've traveled for a robotics tournament?
Wait a minute. Brian's getting into robotics. Just got his knee replaced. His powers went up 100 watts in the last year.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
What is going on here?
I like this reckless speculation.
Okay.
Yeah. I've
Next
been to
thing we
Dallas,
know,
Texas.
he's gonna have like this buzzsaw coming out of his head or something, right? Like,
That's it.
So Dallas, Texas is the furthest. All right.
Yeah, that was for the world's competition. My daughter's been there 3 times. She's qualified. They've won the states 3 years running.
right on.
So, and locally, like driving wise, about 3 hours is longest that we've traveled. We're fortunate because they stream everything on Twitch. So like if I'm not able to be there, if I got to work, I can just watch it on Twitch.
You can just watch it. All right. We're running on fumes now, unless we got some questions from the chat.
you got anything coming up? Like, I'm trying to think if there was any big news. Like, we're kind of waiting to see where Elite Racing's going,
Yeah.
right? There's a
Well,
lot
it
of
was the
but
pause.
it's all
So
up
it was
in the
officially
air, right?
the it was like officially covered on Zwift
Yeah,
whatever.
but I think
No, it
it's
was the
just a
other one.
waiting game now,
Hold on,
right?
it was
To see where it goes.
It was we touched on it a little bit. The Zwift announces race calendar cleanup. And I
Yeah,
think
they're dropping races.
There's that, but there's the outer Scotland. There's a route. Oh, that's Lee's favorite thing. The route. A new route, not new roads. New route. Yes. Yeah. Okay, I think that's
Some
about it.
interns
Right?
just
Yeah?
making routes in the back office, right? Just
I
this will
still
be
haven't
next
done-
month's content.
I did the Zwift race on Wednesday, and I didn't even do the. I did want to bring this up. This was I was watching somebody do the Deca Dash. Is that what it's called? What's the thing?
That
It's
course
like,
sucks.
or whatever.
Yeah,
It was
it's-
like somebody was doing like 10 of them.
And yeah,
It's 10 laps,
That's
right?
brutal. Yeah, that's a
10
brutal
laps.
course.
Sucks.
Yeah.
So the small little profile is so small you can't even really
Oh, right,
see
because
anything.
it's not lapped, right? It's
Yeah.
got 10
It's the
hills
entire,
in it.
Yeah, it's the entire thing. So it's
Right.
like it's so small in the profile thing that you can't even make out. I mean, you can kind of see it, but maybe I was watching somebody stream and it was like small. But I'm thinking like
so
that's
if they
because they load up the route in the mini map.
Yeah, but I did one the other day that was multiple laps and it worked well, right? So like instead of making the Deca Dash route, they need to make a route that's a single loop and you do 10 laps because then your little profile would
Yeah.
just be a single lap, right? But because the route is all 10 laps, and it's like make an award for doing 10 laps of it like you do the volcano. You don't have to make a route that's 10 laps of it.
Isn't
Just
it
make
the,
it
the
bigger.
classic route? Because I think that the classic, it starts in downtown, comes across and does loops around it. That would be a good one.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's what they do. They got these stupid long routes, and then it paints this big ugly image up there. Where 'cause I did one. No, I was on Crit City. That's what it was. Crit City, right? Like, it couldn't have been Crit City because they don't do those little things.
No, because Crit City doesn't have it supported because it's not in Watopia.
I did something the other day that it was multiple laps.
Yeah, it's
and
multiple laps, and they
it was an
squeeze it in there.
intelligent little thing, and
Just make it bigger.
Yeah.
Have it at the bottom of the screen. Take it out of the little mini map and put it, and you can have your graph for your power, which I'm not going to use. I would use the map, the profile map, and it would have the loops like Training Peaks has, like Bike Terra has, like doesn't MyWhoosh have the? No, MyWhoosh does not have the route in the profile. That little line, no, if you show the audio only audience, it has the profile, but it doesn't actually show the entire route.
No,
It
it's
shows the
2
map.
kilometers of the upcoming route.
Yeah, 2 kilometers of the upcoming route, which is at least kind of helpful, but like I want that out of that little space and bigger at the bottom. And so then you could have the 10 loops and you could see where you are on the 10 loops easily.
Yeah.
Right? No? That's my feature request. All right. That it? Lee's like, I'm wrapping presents for the tree.
One
that I
thing
just
I'm
put
going to
up."
do this week, if I get downgraded back to Pin 2, when you're talking about routes and HUDs and all that, I'm going to see if I can do this 2.9 race podium with no HUD, no data. Shut my HUD off, get rid of the draft indicator, right? Get rid of all the stats, just suck wheels and see how much under everybody else I can be. Just by feel.
And then
something
post,
else.
Then post in the Facebook group and go,
Yeah.
this is how terrible Zwift Racing Score is.
Yeah. Yeah. How can we do this? How can I compete? But I was going to say, I was going to say you got to make a post on Facebook.
Okay.
And something else that came up that I don't really think it matters too much, but they made the grade across
FTP
all of
thing.
Watopia.
I like that
And
change.
I like the change, but I also think it's horseshit. And I think they're underestimating the FTPs. So,
I think it's a bad calculation, but I
Okay,
like
you
the
gotta
idea
explain. I
now
have no
that
idea what you're talking about. You need to
Zwift's-
explain.
Alright.
That's like it's so
Zwift's
vague.
Zwift's FTP estimator used in free riding was always just 95% of 20 minutes period,
Mhm.
right? Had to do 20
Okay.
minutes. Your max 20 minutes was 95% of that. They introduced the grade, and if you wrote up the grade, it would estimate your FTP based on your time and power, and it was flexible based on the time. But it wouldn't do that free riding or anywhere else. It was only if you were very specifically on the grade climb that it would do that.
Yeah.
Now, anytime you're
It's
in
everywhere.
Zwift, I think it's what, 8 minutes? Has to be an effort over 8 minutes.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
All right,
their
so what is this called?
calculation
What is this called?
will it'll tell you if it believes your estimated FTP increase. It doesn't require a 20-minute effort to do that.
So here's why I think it's horseshit, and I think they are intentionally underestimating it for Aunt Bev. So my
Workouts are
whoosh,
easy. Yeah.
my whoosh, I did 365 for 12 minutes on a Power Passport test. Is at FTP 343. At Intervals ICU said your FTP is 330 at that 365. Well, I did the grade at 360, and it said 313. I'm like, what the hell? So Friday, I did 386 watts or something for over 10 minutes. No update. No, nothing.
You weren't in a race, right?
I was in a
you
race.
were-
Yeah, it was a ladder race.
But the
That ladder-
calculation's different in a race than it is in a group ride.
that's it. It's the calculations.
All right.
It's different.
Lee,
Yeah.
this is going to be. We're talking about production now. We're going to talk about this off air, but we need to have a sound of somebody typing like into a calculator, like tick 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 tick.
Yeah.
Anytime he starts talking about FTP numbers, and just have it tick 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 tick.
Well,
Because you're talking to all this number stuff, and it's just like I get it, but it's still like, does everyone know what an FTP is? Do people even know what the letters stand for?
I would assume people would, especially if you're watching the show. Now, if
Okay.
you're not, the FTP is your functional threshold power, which you can hold for 40 minutes to an hour. So the whole reason I did that 386 or 388 for 10 minutes, whatever it was, and Intervals said, hey, here's your new FTP, 345, based on this. And Zwift was like, nope, you're still whatever. I had to hard
Because
set it.
people don't want to do 40 minutes. Have you done a 40-minute test? Have
Yes.
you done an hour-long test?
I did 338 for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And
But did you do it in a race or did you do a test?
I did a jersey unlock of Vento and did
Yeah,
it in an
okay.
hour and 7 minutes.
Right.
It sucked.
People don't usually, hey, I can't even do a test to do my Power Passport test because I don't want to do another test.
Yeah.
I don't like doing tests. I'll do it in a race. This is just another shortcut that they're putting across the entire game so people don't have to do a ramp test or a full 20-minute effort, which
Well,
is not even the real effort. An hour-long effort is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's an hour of power.
And my assumption is they are intentionally underestimating FTPs for Aunt Bev. Because I had to manually raise my FTP up from, like, it had like set at 324 in Zwift. It never got above 324. So I manually put it at 340.
It's the Peloton shortcut.
And
It's the Peloton for people. This
Yeah.
is what this is. This is making it easier for people to
and
get
right,
the number
it's
that they
because
need to do so that they can feel good about themselves.
it's the people that are doing the workouts that aren't racing, that aren't training, that don't have.
Yeah, but Casey said
Pushing.
it's different numbers than what you do in an event.
Oh, I'm just kidding on that.
Oh, okay.
That was
No,
that
But
was
still-
for the.
But still, I'll defend Zwift a little bit on this one. Because I don't agree with them calculating low, but if you look at it, the people that actually want the hard workouts and want to improve are doing enough studying to understand that FTP's high.
Yeah.
You and I that want to really grow and do hard workouts and that. Yeah, sorry guys, if you're out there really trying to build, don't be using Zwift's workouts. Swift's training plans suck. You gotta go somewhere else for training plans. If you really want to dig in past like a 3.0 FTP, like you got to go somewhere else for your training. And
Mhm.
for the Aunt Bevs, their calculation works fine. Right? If you're better than that, you just got to manually update it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where I see the shift happening is more toward the social rider, and that like us, the 2 to 5% of people that are racing on Zwift, we are kind of being left behind. Well, you know what I mean? The focus isn't for us, and that's kind of why, like I said, that the elite racing was kind of dying on Zwift. You know, earlier on our show recap, or for the year recap.
The thing is, it's really, a space that could be filled, but there's so few people that really want to do it. There's a big loud say we want this, because I think it's like a stature / sort of like necessary thing to have, but like the average, the Beverleys of the world don't really want it. They don't care. Yeah. It's not viewable. Like, it's not as fun to watch viewing. It's not like it needs to be there. And then the participation isn't really necessary to be there. So I can see why, there's no real urgency for it.
Mm-hmm.
I want it. I like it, but we're a small minority. Like Lee doesn't do very many. He does like one performance verified race a year.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Have you signed up for it yet, Lee?
I'm signed up as far as signing up for the series. Have I done my performance verification stuff?
I haven't even signed up yet. I need to do that too.
Not doing that to the last one.
Yeah. All right. Who's still listening to this show? Because we've almost gone 2 hours. We packed a bunch in.
Yeah.
Hard Claws and Boyko. It sounds like they want to race with you.
With me?
Just want to throw down.
Fine, do it. You send it to me. I'll do it. I'm going to San Diego this week. My brother has a kicker. No, yeah, he has a kicker V4.
V4.
Yeah, I set that up. I'll be on the mountain bike. I'll bring my pedals and my shoes. How about that? You set it up, Hard Claws. I'll do the Australian races. I'll figure out how to get it done. I'm always down to race, whether I'm successful in them or not.
He says he wants to race.
I'll race. I don't mind racing.
Right.
I raced with Fez. Was like, hey, pick a race and I'll do it.
I wanted to do that with you guys, but I was going to be like
within
10 minutes of race start.
It's like 9 o'clock for you, dude.
Yeah, it was like I was going to be home like within 10 minutes of race start, and I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to make it or not.
Dude, he went so hard too. It was good.
Yeah.
But the watching.
I'd have to bring Aunt Bev in for that.
Yeah.
Use that Smurf account.
Yeah, I need to. Well, I'm like it's gonna be 6 weeks. Like starting next week, I need to start really packing on the training to like hopefully peak at nationals if I ever get to be able to do those again, because I just haven't been riding consistently. I've been. I said that off air. I have a lot of life things going on, and it's cutting into my ability to get on the bike like it was previous years where I was, more focused on it and could get on there, and I really looked forward to it. Now I'm gonna have the motivation of like, no, I don't want to do it as much. I would like to get back there. That's the thing, is like, we'll end on this. It's still not where like I want to get on the bike indoors. Like, it's like there's still not really like I want to do it. It's not. It's like upkeep, and it used to not be upkeep. It used to be like, oh, I like doing this. I miss RGT.
We knew it.
There's
nothing shiny. There's nothing shiny. You're rushing home to jump on the bike.
No, and I was like trying to find that with what was it? Bike, and I like Biketerra. Biketerra is one that's fun, but it's like all of them to a certain extent, and it's growing. And the Matt and the Anslo, the guys that do it, is cool, but it's not like I got to do it. I'm thinking about ways to get outside, riding again more. So, all right, Brian's laughing. It's probably something I said, and now Chad is chiming in on it. Good. We're gonna get out of here.
GT's been in chat at least like 8 times tonight. So.
I watched the we're 5 minutes. We're gonna then do it. I was watching that sort of thing we were talked about earlier about the racing, about the willing to risk the win And that's what I did in that 2023 national championships. Was I went back and I looked at that spot where I was like, I'm going to go here. And all of a sudden my gap grew and grew and grew, and I was fit. And so it was good. That was when my FTP, hey, you ready? I was doing this and blah, blah, blah. I was 395 FTP at the time when I won that. So I was, because I did a midweek race. I did the Flanders Classics race that I think I got like 13th. Like I was not, because Zach Nair was winning, Lucas was winning, or not winning, but like in the top 5. These were like heavy hitters on RGT, right? Then I was like, oh, well, I'll do that in the midweek because I just want to race. And then I was like, all of a sudden, bam, national championship. And it did really well. So there you go. You got to be willing to risk it. I'm not willing to risk it right now because I have no motivation. Play the music, Lee, so we can get out of here. And we're going to say goodbye when we wave. 3, 2, 1. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. All right, take care. Bye.